everybody, welcome to another video. Hope you're ready to flex those brain muscles because today we're going to solve some more quadratic equations. This is part 2. If you need to see part 1, click right up here. So in this video we're just going to do examples, and I encourage you when you see the example to pause the video, try it on your own, and then if you either get stuck or if you get to the right answer you press play and you could either find out what you're missing or check your answer, that sort of thing. So this is our first example. You can go ahead and try it on your own if you want, pause the video. But let's go and get right into it. I need to set it up like this with 0 on one side. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. So minus 6, that gives me 6x squared minus 18x minus 24 equals 0. So what I could do is I could factor this from here and just use the AC method. But there's a trick. There's a trick I can do that makes my life a lot easier. And if we notice, this has a greatest common factor. Right? There's a common factor between all of these terms, and the greatest common factor is actually 6 in this case. So when we factored trinomials in that video, we pulled out the 6 from all the terms, and we were left with a trinomial where a equals 1, so that it was easier to factor. The same idea works here. We can pull out the 6, but since we have this equal sign, we have two sides of an equation, we can actually just divide both sides by 6 and completely get rid of it. So that's what we'll do. If we have a common factor, we can divide both sides, but we can't divide both sides by x or 0, right? So as long as it's a common factor like this, like 6, we can divide both sides by that. So that means everything gets divided by 6. Divided by 6, divided by 6, divided by 6, divided by 6. Well, 0 divided by 6 is still just 0, so we don't have to worry about that. 24 over 6, here I'll work from left to right. This is x squared minus 3x minus 4. And again, if you didn't notice this and you just went straight into factoring, you would get the same answer. But now I'm left with this. Now I just have to factor this instead of that. Right? So now I'm going to factor this trinomial where a equals 1. So I can just look for two numbers that multiply together to be negative 4 and add together to be negative 3. I believe that's going to be minus 4 plus 1. Minus 4 plus 1. Let's make sure that's right. X minus 4 times x plus 1. Yeah, that gives me what I need. So now I set this first part equal to 0 and this second part equal to 0, and I solve for x on both of those equations. So I have 1, let's see, this is x minus 4 equals 0. So if I add 4 to both sides, then I get x equals 4. That's my first solution for x. 2, I have what? X plus 1 equals 0. And if I subtract 1 from both sides, I'm left with x equals, let's see, these 1's cancel, negative 1. So these are my two solutions for x, 4 and negative 1. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try it if you want. 27x squared equals 12. Again, I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides so I can get 0 on this right-hand side. Minus 12. Minus 12, minus 12, I'm left with 27x squared minus 12 equals 0. Now I'm going to see if I can pull out a common factor, in this case divide both sides by something, because as of now, this isn't a difference of squares, I can't do anything with it, but I think if I pull out a common factor, I will be able to. What can I take out of both these? Let's see, 3, right? What if I divide everything by 3? Then I'm left with what? 9x squared minus 4. You see what happened there? Equals 0. Now it's a difference of squares, right? I got something squared minus something squared. I think I could write that as something squared minus something squared. This part is obvious, 2 squared. That's my b in this case. But what is my a? It's not 9x. It's 3x, right? 3x times 3x gives me that 9x squared I need. So I could rewrite this as what? A minus b times a plus b. And a is 3x, b is 2. So this can be rewritten as 3x minus 2 times 3x plus 2. And I still have this set equal to 0. So I'm going to set this part equal to 0 and this part equal to 0 and solve for x. So for my first one, I have 3x minus 2 equals 0. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. I get 3x equals 2. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And I get x equals 2/3. All right, now I'm going to do this one. 3x plus 2 equals 0. 3x plus 2 equals 0. Now I'm going to subtract 2, and maybe you see the pattern that it's just going to end up being negative 2/3. But if you don't, you can work it out like this. 3x equals negative 2. I just subtracted 2 from both sides, and then divide by 3. And I have x equals positive 2/3 and x equals negative 2/3. Those are my two solutions for x. All right, next example, go ahead and pause if you want to try it on your own. All right, so what we're going to do, same idea. We need to move everything over on one side so we can have 0 on one side. We need to set it up like this. So I'm going to move these two things over here. So first I'm going to add 3 to both sides, plus 3, plus 3. And look what's actually going to happen to both my minus 3. Since I have minus 3 on both sides, they're both going to cancel. So both those plus 3's go. So what am I left with now? Let's write out each step. You could maybe do those 2 steps at once, but I'm going to write out each step. Okay, this is what I have left now. Now I still need 0 on this side, so I'm going to add 5x squared to each side. These will cancel. I'll get my 0 I need. And on this left side, I'll get negative 4x squared plus 5x squared. That's just x squared minus 8x. So in this case, my c is 0. So that means I'm just going to take out the greatest common factor between these two terms. So in this case, I can take out an x. And once I've done that, that's all I need. I can set each of these equal to 0. So my first solution is already there, x equals 0. Right? Because I'm setting this first part to 0 and the second part to 0. My second one, I got to do a little algebra. X minus 8 equals 0. So if I add 8 to both sides, I get x equals, see that cancels, I get 8. So my two solutions are x equals 0 and x equals 8. All right, last example for this video, 15x squared minus 3x equals 3 minus 7x. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, and I'm going to add 7x to both sides. Y'all think I can handle doing this in one step? If I do minus 3 plus 7x to both sides in one step, I think I can handle it. Minus 3 plus 7x, right? That gets rid of what I have here and leaves me with the 0. And what does that do here? Let's see, the 15x squared still stays there. 15x squared. My plus 7x and my negative 3x are like terms, and it becomes what? Plus 4x. And my minus 3 is still there. All right. I don't think I could take out a common factor or divide both sides by something. 3 doesn't have anything in common with, well, no, the 4, no, I can't do it. So I got to go straight into factoring. I'm going to use the AC method. So A times C in this case is negative 45. So I need two numbers that multiply together to be negative 45, but add together to be positive 4. So what can I break this down into? Let's see, 45 and 1, that's not going to work. 15 and 3, no. 5 and 9, that's what it's going to be. 5 and 9, so it's going to end up being what? Plus 9 minus 5. That gives me that positive 4 I need, right? So what I use these two numbers to do is to split up this middle term, right? So it becomes 15x squared plus 9x. And if you have no idea what I'm doing, click up here. There's a video. I'm using the AC method to factor a trinomial where a is not equal to 1. You can use another method, box method, X method. Even the guess and check would work. It would just take a while. But this is the method I choose to use. Minus 3 equals 0. Okay, now what I do is I turn it into a factor by grouping problem. So I take out a common factor from here, which is going to be, what, 3x? If I take out 3x, I'm left with, yeah, I think that's going to be it. If I take out 3x, I'm left with 5x plus 3. So I need a 5x plus 3 here. So this negative 1 is going to kind of come out. Basically, I'm factoring out a negative 1 from these last two terms. 5x plus 3. All right, now it's a factor by grouping problem. That's what the AC method does. You turn it into a factor by grouping problem. So I factor out the 5x plus 3 into the front. And what I'm left with is 3x minus 1. And these are both still equal to 0, so I set this first part equal to 0, and that second part equal to 0. And then I can finish. So 5x plus 3 equals 0. Now I'm going to solve for x. Subtract 3 from both sides. What do I get now? That leaves me with 5x equals negative 3. And now I have to divide both sides by 5 to isolate the x. So these 5's cancel, and I'm left with x equals negative 3 over 5. All right, what about equation 2? 3x minus 1 equals 0. 3x minus 1 equals 0. Add 1 to both sides. Plus 1 plus 1. What does that give me? 3x equals 1. And then I just divide both sides by 3. And I get x equals 1/3. So these are my two solutions for x. X equals negative 3/5 and x equals 1/3. And you can always plug these back in to check to whichever one you want. They should all give you, right? If you plug these numbers in for x here, it'll give you 0 on that left side. So hopefully this video helped. These are some examples. I kind of went a little fast, but this is just for you to practice at this point. So leave any questions below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more. And I'll see you next time. Keep flexing those brain muscles.